Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's a rather interesting week. I'm up about 9%, £41,000, which is largely down to one stock. You may be able to spot it from here, but yes, we'll get into that in a sec. Just comparing that to the markets then, S&P is up 1.77%, doing sort of quite well. It's somewhat slowed down a little since the election, sort of around the 6,000 level, and has then popped up sort of about 200 points in the last couple of weeks, nearly 300 points. Um, and the Nasdaq is up 1.45%, so slightly lower than the S&P. But yeah, had sort of a couple of okay stocks this week. Taiwan Semiconductor sort of pushing on a little. It's pulled back ever so slightly on Friday, but yeah, it's done quite well. Himax Technologies up 8.9%, but that is up 45% for the week. So yeah, doing quite well, which I'll highlight in a sec. Broadcom sort of doing okay. Some of the others, most of the others really, sort of in the low single percent up or down, except CF Industries, which all I could see was dropped a fair bit because of sort of concerns over natural gas prices. Maybe increasing their costs could lower earnings a little bit, but doesn't seem sort of fundamentally anything to worry too much about. It was sort of popping up a reasonable amount and has sort of come back to close to break even for me. No additions in here this week as well. Still got the sort of fairly large cash pile. Is earning sort of £3 a day in the invest account. So yeah, not all that sort of eager to jump into something that has sort of run a fair bit, but yeah, still sort of buying something sort of every other week. But yeah, no sort of earnings this week, but a little bit of news. So we'll sort of jump to Riot Platforms, potentially moving towards the AI side. They sort of had been saying, a few months ago, a couple of quarters ago, that they were firmly focused on Bitcoin and that they were, always sort of evaluating AI. They sort of mentioned this in a couple of videos, but nothing formal. And yeah, they are now calling this a formal evaluation of potential AI uses for the remaining 600 megawatts of power capacity at Corsicana. So, sort of compare this to the Core Scientific deal. I think they've got about 400 megawatts um, in total, sort of being used for the CoreWeave deal. They sort of started out a bit lower than that and have then added to it and added to it. Sort of very happy with how things were going. And Core Scientific have sort of, if you've noticed, maybe been a little bit more resilient in the downturn of the miners. Obviously, miners sort of still, you could call it lagging or just a poor business model. Obviously, we've got Bitcoin, went through all-time highs, and then at the Trump election has gone through 100,000, and yeah, the miners have sort of largely still gone nowhere. Costs have increased, and as I say, potentially the business model isn't as good as physical metals miners. So yeah, more of them are looking to potentially switch to, well, not switch, but maybe add AI and yeah, have that sort of more regular revenue. So they note this has quite an impact on the figures. They were previously projecting to end 2025 with a total hash rate of 46.7 exahash. And yeah, with this sort of halt on the expansion, they're now saying they expect to get to 38.4. So you'll note, maybe from previous videos, that that is about 1 exahash lower than where CleanSpark are today, or they're presumably over 40 by now. So yeah, end of this year, lower than where CleanSpark are now. That's sort of quite significant, I would say. Um, they're also saying this would reduce capital expenditures by $245 million. That is quite a bit. And yeah, they're saying there's no assurance that existing assets are suitable for conversion. Sort of usual disclaimers. They're evaluating it. I suppose if it doesn't work, they may push back into Bitcoin mining expansion. But I would have thought it's suitable with a bit of conversion, and we'll see if they get a sort of lucrative deal like Core Scientific and CoreWeave, where sort of CoreWeave appear to be essentially paying for almost everything. So Himax Technologies, what is going on? There were sort of rumours not so long ago that they were potentially working with Taiwan Semiconductor and Nvidia, and yeah, this is sort of looks like it's confirmed to be true. They're going to be a key beneficiary of their AI and, more importantly, silicon photonics push. So this is sort of seen as one of the next potential ways to advance semiconductors. They're sort of getting, very, very small on their nodes. We sort of moved from 7 nanometer to 5 to 3. They're looking to go to 2 and sort of under 2. And they need to find new ways of pushing on, trying to. I think Moore's law is somewhat dead at this point. They're not going quite that fast, but yeah, there's sort of new ways to have a push. And as part of silicon photonics, or for sort of a portion of that at least, Himax appear to be the exclusive supplier. So yeah, we're getting some sort of very, very bullish estimates, admittedly, from one analyst, TF International Securities Analyst. Is predicting this is going to be basically a 2028 sort of initiative, and so they're saying a 1.16 billion revenue in 2026, 1.42, and then 2.4 billion in 2028, and that would push earnings to $1, $1.60, and $3.40 for 2028. So really, it all comes out in 2028, and we get that sort of huge, over 100% earnings jump. And yeah, 2026 consensus was 80 cents. So yeah, the stock being at $5, $6, you sort of got up to $7. If we're going to be at $3 anywhere close really to $3.40 earnings in 3 years, then you sort of discount that back and it's worth a lot more today. So incredible, really. So they're the exclusive micro lens array supplier for first and second generation, this new optical technology, and they're already sort of talking about AMD and Nvidia sort of adopting it for their GPUs if production stays on track. So AI spending accelerating, analysts see Himax well positioned for long-term upside. So, and this is all as an aside from their existing sort of electric vehicle push, displays, OLED displays potentially in cars, and just the general sort of display technology, laptops and TVs and all that sort of thing. They've now got AI chips, silicon photonics chips as a second portion of the business. So very nice. So what isn't so good? Stellantis. We kind of knew this was going to look a little bit poor, but the numbers are out. Q4 2024 shipments. We'll get earnings sort of in a couple of weeks, I think, 3 weeks. And yeah, at least we know the sort of delivery numbers. Stock is sort of seems to be pricing some of this in. Yeah, they sort of sold 1.5, just over 1.5 million units in Q4 2023, and they've done just under 1.4 million units, so down 9% year on year. This is largely coming from America, 410,000 down to 295,000, so it's 28% down. Europe only down 6%, Middle East and Africa unusually flat, and yeah, South America is up 12%, China sort of down 33%, but it's a tiny amount of the business. I wouldn't expect them to get all that much in China. in particular, even though they did have their joint venture with Leap Motor, I think it was. And Maserati looks horrendous. They've sort of put this down to that change in models, but yeah, 55% down. Obviously, again, a fairly small part of the business. It's North America and Europe that are the main focus, of course. But yeah, we'll have to see when the earnings come out. It's not going to look pretty. They're sort of obviously trying to say this is down to inventory reduction and launch of new products. They've got a hell of a lot of new cars, if you read here, sort of coming out this year, and yeah, they're basically saying stick with us, but yeah, it's not looking all that good. We had Carlos announce his resignation, and he is gone. So yeah, we'll have to see where they go, but I'm keeping an eye on what the earnings are in a few weeks. So just a quick report on KGHM. I do like to check in with their monthly data. It's very nice that they give monthly data. And yeah, just sort of quick look on their copper. Not looking too bad at all. 62,000 tons of copper, 119 tons of silver, up from 102 last year. So that's pretty good. The yearly number is down, as we said, because of maintenance, 1,340 tons, down from 1,428. So I did have been sort of calculating this a little bit wrong, sort of with the ounce and troy ounce conversion. They didn't quite get to 50 million last year. It was sort of 46, 47 million, and they're now looking at sort of 43 for this year with the maintenance, but yeah, 43 million ounces of silver I still think is pretty strong. But yeah, they are sort of trailing behind Fresnillo sort of quite a bit. But yeah, I thought that was pretty good. And then sort of other precious metals, 173 tons, or 1,000 ounces rather. So yeah, pretty good. Keeping an eye on some of the commodity prices as well. People are sort of still mentioning your Rio Tintos and your Vales and people like that. Glencore. We've got sort of iron ore still really at the lows. Sort of did go to 90s briefly a couple of times, but yeah, sort of certainly on the 5-year chart, it doesn't look particularly healthy. Would imagine earnings are going to look terrible for them. So last year you've had, or last quarter certainly has been almost entirely bad. So yeah, not all that interested in buying them, and certainly on the long term side of things, sort of mentioned in past videos, you've got a huge amount of production coming online, sort of across this way on the chart, if you like, 2026 to 2028. There's, from what I understand, an enormous amount of production coming online. So unless we're going to get some sort of equivalent increase in demand, then you'd sort of see this iron ore just trickling on where it is, or possibly even going down a bit over the next few years. Maybe not, dollar sort of going down could always change these things, and all manner of things could put a spanner in the works. Maybe lower supply and price could go up, but I like to be sort of long-term bullish. So yeah, it's not one for me at the moment. Copper is obviously a little bit different, sort of moving up and down. It's sort of not all that far off the highs really. It sort of got to $5. Never really sort of spends too much time at that sort of level, and it's now at $4.29. So yeah, looking quite good. And we've obviously got not as much supply as we need coming online in the next sort of few years, and still more of a push with electrification, EVs, solar, and all sorts really. So yeah, still bullish on copper and potentially buying more KGHM. Looking at gold, just continues to look lovely. We sort of had a little bit of a drop since the Trump election, certainly. Sort of rise in the dollar and bits and pieces, but yeah, if you sort of look at it on the yearly chart, it barely looks like a correction. maybe sort of on the 6 months it's a bit more volatile, but it has suddenly sort of rocketed back up. It's almost at all-time highs, and yeah, looking rather nice. The miners should be having a decent quarter. Sort of all of this quarter now has been, averaging 2650, 2700. So yeah, very, very nice. Silver sort of lagging, not it basically always lags and then sort of goes through the roof towards the end. Maybe not quite so good as a miner because you don't get that sort of longer period at the high prices, but we'll have to see. Sort of still in deficit, and yeah, eventually they'll run out, you'd think. Not a lot of economic news this week. I've sort of had UK unemployment numbers, slightly better than expected. Unemployment rate did tick up to 4.4% though. Net borrowing for the UK looks rather awful, 17.8 billion. So that's unfortunate for some, good for gold, silver, Bitcoin. This isn't going to affect it directly, but it's just more money supply across the whole world. Jobless claims in the US sort of slightly worse than expected, but still looking pretty good. And some sort of PMI data looking slightly better than expected. Yeah, fairly quiet week for economic news. I think we've got FOMC. Yeah, FOMC next Wednesday. So, we'll see what that brings. So just catching up with the portfolio. Not too much has changed in here really, for considering sort of the volatility of these. I think sort of CleanSpark and Riot up slightly. I think CleanSpark's down, Riot's up a little bit with that AI push. Sort of the Core Mining and Equinox Gold up slightly with the increased gold price, similar with Fresnillo really, but not all that much change in here, to be honest. Not too much change in Pan American or KGHM, but it is the options side or the Interactive Brokers Invest side that is seeing all the action. So with that 45% move in Himax, I have seen an incredible rise in the options. Sort of these are at a $10 strike, so it was me betting that Himax would go above $10 by January 2026, January next year. And obviously when they were at, $5, $6, no one was really sort of particularly bullish. People were talking about how much lower it could go, and so the options were very, very cheap. And sort of now being at $12.89, I think we got to. It did get to 13.60, 13.70 yesterday, and yeah, so it's they're sort of $3 or more already in the money, and everyone's talking about how high it can go rather than how low it can go. So I always sort of had $20 for Himax as my sort of long-term bullish target, and yeah, the more that sort of looks like a reality, people start to sort of price that into premium on the options. So yeah, the current position is 2,065% in the green, and I have been I told 50, I think it was last week, maybe the week before last, but yeah, sort of seemingly at a low price now, but I sold another 40 this week. So I've sort of got about 3 times my investment out of it, and sort of I think I spent about £4,500 on the whole lot, and yeah, I've withdrawn, sold about £15,000 worth, and the remainder is worth 60. So yeah, you can see the explosive nature of options, basically. Sort of a lot of the others, in the red, not doing particularly well, and then one sort of, largely makes up for it. Obviously, Core Mining doing reasonably well as well. That was sort of my biggest green, but rather overshadowed now. I still think we could get, Riot and Hive and Equinox certainly potentially do the same, but we'll have to see. not really done a huge amount with the cash. I bought a little bit of Equinox, the 2 year ones, January 2027. So they've got pretty much dead on 2 years today to run. So very, very bullish on those. And yeah, I've got 21,000 now sitting in cash. Some of this could get put on KGHM, as I said, but I think some of this may be sort of moved out into the Trading212 side to sort of be buying a little bit more there. But we'll have to see. I need to sort of take stock and think about this. So sort of selling like £8,000 worth of these options yesterday, and sort of needed to do it sort of straight away. Haven't really thought too much about what to do with it. But yeah, interesting. Leave your thoughts in comments below then, if you guys are buying much and excited about earnings coming up. I'm guessing we've got sort of big tech coming in the next week and all sorts really. And like and subscribe. See you soon.